there were certain weeks she didn't like me.
Right.
And I ain't like her either.
Right, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? Because I went from being a musician to a leader.
Right.
And as a leader, I had to figure out, how do I preserve the church through COVID?
Right.
And so I learned quickly that it was no longer about footprints because nobody was able to leave the house.
Right.
And it was about thumbprints. Be more intentional. I left
true.
the church, and unfortunately, I had to transition from the military abruptly. A lot of times people start businesses without a capital. One of the things that helped me was I was able to start a business while I still had income. I want to free people one more time and say this. It's not only seed in the ground, but it's your willingness, your vulnerability to let the seed die and walk away. A lot of times we sit there, we put the seed in the ground, and then we watch it. And then we get discouraged because we're like, okay, it's not doing anything. Well, it is going to do a thing,
right.
but it's going to take longer when you're sitting there and you're looking at it.
Right.
Put seed in the ground, let it die, walk away, let God give increase, let it
Right.
be watered by people,
Right.
And then it grows, and then when you come back to it, you're able to say, you know what? That's nothing but God. This is why I say the little bit I have means so much.
Yeah, I use
That's
it all
a
the time.
line.
Yeah, I use
That
it all the
went
time.
viral, bro.
Yeah, I know. I use it all the time.
That line went viral.
Yeah.
The little bit I have means so
much.
But like, again, you're one of the people that was able to see the manifestation of the little bit I have means so much in real time. Everybody can't say that.
Right, that's true.
It's easier when you are who you are.
Right.
And then you are who you are in all environments. And I'm literally at this point in my life, what you see is what you get. Where I failed in ministry was I was one person in ministry and I was another one I left. Because I'm a helper. You know me, I'm a giver.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to give to everybody and anybody that I can because I believe in seed in the ground. But now, I said that to say this, I'm at a space where seed in the ground, yes. But I want my seed to have value.
Right.
And I want it to grow in the right places.
Right.
And so that requires me to guard my yes. It requires me to guard my no's so that they have current.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Kelvis Podcast. Man, look at here who I got with me, my brother, my business partner on so many different levels. I love him so much. In the building on Kelvis Podcast tonight. We're going to keep it real. As we got another pod called Real Record. We're going to keep it real record. We're going to keep it spicy. We're going to keep it real. We're going to keep it transparent tonight, man. Thank you for coming on the show tonight. I know you've been real busy. You've been out of time working, doing a lot of other things. So I appreciate you taking the time to spend with your brother, man.
You know what it is, man.
Hey,
I'm glad to be here.
So, man, let's dive right into it, man.
Let's do it.
Because people want to know. Because some people been asking me some questions.
Let's do it.
And so let's talk about your relationship. So you just got engaged.
Yeah.
As you told me, we kind of moved away from so much.
Jeez, y'all don't even want to know about the RA Media brand, the business?
Oh, we're going to get there.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
We're going to get there. I'm jumping where I want to jump. You said it for me. You said the night for me to ask whatever the people want to know.
Yeah, they want to know. Let's talk about it.
So we were talking about it. So I kind of transformed my way of moving based on your advice because, I'm not married, so I'm not engaged in none of those things. So, and then what you were telling me, we're talking about a lot of relationships, and you're not in a relationship, or you're not on your podcast with your partner. So you got this new podcast with Jessica. I think it's called Check In.
The Check In, yeah.
Man,
shout out to the Check In.
Shout out to him, man. Talk to me about that, man. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So I had Give Me a Second podcast. Shout out to Ray Shine. We was doing our thing. And I'm thankful for that podcast. I thank God for that podcast because that podcast did a lot for me mentally, emotionally, and from a restoration perspective. You know what I mean?
Right.
A lot of times men get caught up in the spell and the cycles of how they're identified versus how they call themselves.
True.
You know what I'm saying? And so I needed Give Me a Second podcast because the truth of the matter is, if we're all honest, and I believe we should, we all need a second. But we're not real enough to say that we actually need it.
Right.
So I created a space where he and I, Rayshawn and I, could have a conversation about the things that we genuinely needed a second about. We're talking fatherhood.
Right.
We're talking church. We're talking relationship. We're talking money.
Right.
Logistics. We're talking about, businesses and prosperity. There's a lot of things that we just needed a second on, you know?
Right.
And so we created that lane, but then I started noticing that we got really relationship heavy.
Right. That's true.
We got really relationship heavy. And it was good because it was freeing, because the truth of the matter is, I'm being transparent. You ready for this?
I'm totally.
My biggest failure in life was relationship.
Oh.
I was good in money.
That's heavy.
I was good professionally.
Right.
I was good athletically. You know what I'm saying? I work out, do my thing. You know what I'm saying? I was good.
Yeah. You stay in the gym.
You know what I'm saying?
I be calling, hey man, I'm running the 6 mile.
Stupid.
Call you back.
I gotta call you back. I gotta get it in. And shout out to fitness, man, because a lot of us, man, we don't take that area of our life serious enough.
Right.
And I just wanna put an end to like premature death.
Right.
If I could say it that way, man. Like, listen, like we can control that to a certain degree. I understand that we all have an assignment, you know, when we're supposed to go meet our Heavenly Father, but there are some elements of prevention. You know, everything ain't timely. Sometimes you're genuinely a gone too soon hashtag.
Right.
And it don't have to be that way.
That's true.
But yeah, man. So we were doing that, and I got to a point where we were talking about relationships. It got really heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And I started, you know, asking myself by watching other podcasts and stuff. There were people that were talking about relationship, but you never saw their partner.
Right.
You never saw their significant other.
Yeah, right.
You never saw like the manifestation or the evidence of what it was that they were, you know, talking about.
Right.
And I said, man, where's the credibility in what that looks like?
True.
And just kind of talking from a numbers perspective, I just want to talk about the jumps. There was a point where I only had 275 followers.
Really?
And we lived there. And it just didn't grow.
Wow.
And then we jumped when I started talking about relationship, because that was the most transparent, the most authentic conversation that I was willing to offer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, people like giving your opinion on conversation when you're not like a known like celebrity or something like that.
Right.
People don't really care what I think about.
Right.
I'm just being real. They don't care.
Yeah, you're right. That goes both ways. Yeah,
it was an element of them wanting to know my business.
Right. Oh yeah, they want.
You know what I'm saying? They wanted to know what that was.
They want to know everybody.
And so the moment I started talking about, you know, what struggle really looked like in my life.
Right.
Okay, I went from 2,000 to like 5,000. And then, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but then there was a point where I went from 5,000 to like 20,000.
Yeah, there was.
It just happened overnight.
And you was overseas, because I called you. I said, hey,
I
said, hey, a friend of mine called me and said, hey, some of my people said you over in.
I wasn't even home.
In the islands.
I wasn't even home. You know, I think I was away, and the person that contacted you was overseas for real.
Yeah, they was in St. Thomas.
And I was like, man, I'm on to something. But then I said to myself, okay, so where's the authenticity? Where's the validity? You know, so how do we figure that out?
Right.
Because it's one thing to say one thing on camera, but it's another thing to say, okay, but is there evidence that supports that?
That's it.
And so then Give Me a Second turned into, you know, the check-in. And so I want you to also understand that the check-in, you know, it's a concept, it's a podcast,
right?
But it's something that we do all the time, you know, sometimes daily, most of the time weekly.
Right.
And then of course for the podcast, you know what I'm saying? And those are real conversations that say, let me do an azimuth check. Let me do a barometer check. You know, how do you really feel about me? Do you really like me this week?
Right.
And to be honest, there were certain weeks she didn't like me.
Right.
And I ain't like her either.
Right. That's true.
You know what I'm saying? And so those were conversations where we kept the main thing.
Right.
It was a safe space where we were able to talk about the uncomfortable things.
Right.
And I noticed that the more that we talked about it, the more comfortable we became in uncomfortable moments.
Right.
And what I started to learn from that is that people could resonate, they can glean from, even if it's not the same example to a T.
Right.
It's a conversation in perspective that says, I deal with relationship stuff too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And people really, they love that and they glean to that, you know, and I'm just thankful for what the check-in has turned into.
Yeah,
While it's a podcast, it's helping my daily life. It's helping
Right.
my relationship.
Right.
So I love it.
So what new adventures, man, you know, people want to know where you going, man? Because I know you stay gone for, you know, you just came back from Tacoma, Washington, stuff like that, from your other ventures that you were into.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Where's RE Media going? Where do you see yourself going? You know,
RE
I need you to keep doing what you're doing, because I can't afford to lose you, man. You know what I'm saying?
First of all, RA Media is a blessing.
Yeah.
And just to be totally transparent and honest, like, you know, 5 years ago to the date, I didn't know nothing about videography. Just being totally honest, I ain't know nothing about this. This was just, you know, I was a musician before this. So back up, I was a PK. You know what I'm saying? And so being a PK, we know, like, you know, all good PKs, they start off in the music department.
Right.
So I was, you know, start off playing drums.
Yeah.
But I think that I always had a niche for playing like keys.
Right.
Because there was a guy named Brother Livingston who played organ at the time. You know, that, you know, black church back in the day, all they had was an organ and a piano.
Right.
They had no keyboards, they had no synthesizers, none of that. It was an organ or a piano. And so, you know, Brother Livingston, he played organ, and I always kind of sat where he was,
right.
But I heard the drums in the background. So I think the drums was something that I just kind of heard as a rhythm type thing.
Right.
And I just picked up and I wasn't even looking at it. Side note, I always had a talent for, if you do it in front of me, if you do it in earshot, if I see it, it's good as mine.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think that was something, there was a lot of, what do they call them? Child prodigies.
Right.
And I think God blessed me to be in a space where, I could borderline be a prodigy to a certain degree.
Right.
Because of my ability to pick up on information that was done in front of me.
Right.
So that was a thing. And I traversed through church.
Can I stop you for a moment?
Yeah.
Let's go back. Let's rewind.
Uh-oh.
So when I first came to you,
yeah,
and I started talking to you, you said, "Hey man," said, "I know your background military. You deal with network and systems or whatever, right?"
Yeah.
And you said to me, "Hey, my church asked me to start making, because it was during COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
And church started, wanted to go live and,
Yeah.
The change and everybody going live and stuff because of COVID." You said, so I started picking up. So I remember that conversation you told me you picked up this because of COVID and your church asked you to do it. Do you remember having that conversation with me?
And that's where I was getting to, man. I was a musician first, but then I kind of moved into other leadership perspectives in the church. And so COVID happened. And then I had to figure out because I went from being a musician to a leader.
Right.
And as a leader, I had to figure out, how do I preserve the church through COVID?
Right.
And so I learned quickly that it was no longer about footprints because nobody was able to leave the house.
Right.
And it was about thumbprints.
Yep.
And I had to figure out, how do I reach a displaced people? And at that time, revelation and strategy hit my life. And I said, this is the time where now the storefront church can now become the mega church.
True.
There's no reason for ministry to be lacking because we now have the same reachability as a Michael Todd, as a Stephen Furtick, as a TD. His church is empty just like mine. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
TD church, his church is empty just like mine. Right. So why is it that we don't have the reachability, the scalability, and the outreach that they have? And so I was gifted with COVID. Notice what I said. I was gifted with COVID. And while I don't want to make it seem as though COVID was a great thing, because I feel bad for the families and the lives that it affected.
Right. Yeah.
But, if you could turn a negative into a positive, it was a reset opportunity.
Yeah,
it was a strategy opportunity.
True.
It was a rebuilding opportunity. And if I could be honest, COVID put years on my life because I was going hard in a lot of different areas, and COVID kind of slowed me down.
Right.
And so I say all that to say, I had to figure out how to preserve the church at large through COVID.
Right.
And so I started doing, I bought me a little Sony.
Yeah.
I filmed some of the stuff on that same Sony I bought, with you.
Yeah.
And so I was learning it, and it was good for what it was, but there was greater. And then, there was some transitions that happened. I left the church. And I had to figure out, let's be more intentional. I left the church, and unfortunately I had to transition from the military abruptly. There were some things that just went on in my life.
Right.
And it's just keeping the main thing where, 17-year career, I had to transition abruptly. Now, at the same time, a lot of times people start businesses without a capital. One of the things that helped me was I was able to start a business while I still had income.
Right.
And so while I had income, I had to build strategy, and I had to connect and leverage those things to work together.
Right.
And so I used that opportunity to build my portfolio. There's a lot of things, and I want to bless some folk. You need to put seed in the ground if you want your business to work.
Right.
I say that to say there was a lot of things that I gave away for free. There was a lot of content that I did that people gave me opportunities on, and I sold myself as a videographer, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And I'm just being real. I didn't know, and so they gave me a canvas to learn.
Right.
They gave me a canvas to learn my skill set in real time.
Right.
People were hiring me for gigs, and I didn't even have bags for my equipment. You see what I'm saying?
No, I didn't know.
And so this is the thing. People call themselves entrepreneurs. And the truth of the matter is that you have a concept or an idea, but that concept or idea is not professional. You ain't got an LLC. You ain't got a portfolio.
Yeah.
You don't have a pitch and a line series. You don't have lead magnets.
Right.
There are so many things that, it takes to be an entrepreneur, but you think you're an entrepreneur simply because you have an idea.
Right.
And you're not humble enough, or you're not conscious enough, aware enough to say, let me take that idea and let me perfect it.
Right.
And so I used that whole year where I was going through separation. You saw me in real time.
Right.
develop and strategize and say, okay, I have now an opportunity where I have to now turn what's a dream into a reality,
Right.
because this is now about to be a real thing.
Yeah.
And no longer can I use my dream and let that be the thing that gets me through the door, but I have to realize that, become good at it, and make it a professional product.
Right.
I thank God for people like you, because you gave me the room, the platform to get it right and wrong in the same conversation.
Right.
And so, RA Media became a thing. I developed, connections and relationships with yourself, high platform individuals. It's content that I edit that you don't even know. You looking at it on YouTube is different, documentaries and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I got NDAs and stuff like that. But you'd be surprised the projects that come across my
Right.
desk.
I know some of them that we talked about.
It's
we went down
real
to
projects.
Went down to Atlanta. And you did some work
Yeah.
down there because I did a
It's
book
real
signing
stuff.
down there. So I know some of them.
You know?
And I see your work out there. So yeah.
Yeah, it's real seed in the ground though.
Right.
And I want to free people one more time and say this. It's not only seed in the ground, but it's your willingness, your vulnerability to let the seed die and walk away.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we sit there, we put the seed in the ground, and then we watch it. And then we get discouraged because we're like, okay, it's not doing anything. Well, it is going to do a thing,
Right.
but it's going to take longer when you're sitting there and you're looking at it.
Right.
Put seed in the ground, let it die, walk away, let God give increase, let it
Right.
be watered by people.
Right.
And then it grows. And then when you come back to it, you're able to say, you know what? That's nothing but God.
Nothing but a harvest.
That's nothing but an opportunity.
Right.
And so it ain't nothing like, as an entrepreneur, having options and opportunities.
Right.
And so RA Media, man, to answer your question, I wanted to make sure I gave people context on what that looked like, because I didn't want to just tell them what RA Media is doing without them understanding how it was birthed.
That's right.
It was birthed out of necessity. This is why I say the little bit I have means so much.
Yeah, I use
That's
it all the
a
time.
line.
Yeah, I use
That
it all the
went
time.
viral, bro.
Yeah, I know. I use it all the time.
That line went viral.
Yeah.
The little bit I have means so
So
much.
much.
But like, again, you're one of the people that was able to see the manifestation of the little bit I have means so much in real time. Everybody can't say that.
Right. That's true.
You see what I'm saying? And so it's so right now RA Media is in a space where, thank God, I'm not operating out of necessity. I'm operating through strategy. And because I have options and opportunities, I have the options to say yes and no to things.
Right.
Which gives my yes value and my no currency.
Currency. That's right.
My yes has value and my no has currency.
Wow.
And so I'm able to do certain things and stuff like that. And so, man, God is opening doors, but He's also closed doors. But I thank God for those too,
Right.
because that means He's opening windows.
Right.
And so I'm able to jump out of windows and do certain things, man. I may be moving down to Atlanta. Who all
I know.
knows?
Let me tell the audience something, man. Every time this man texts me, say, "Hey, man, we need to talk about something." I'm like, man, boy, my heart, I'm like, man, I don't want to have to go out here and try to find somebody to be a producer.
No,
podcast. But I'm just being transparent. That's one of the first things go through my mind when you say, "Hey, man, we need to talk," and it's always, something dealing with the brand, the business of Kelvis podcast.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
thankful for that. So, talk to me about this transition that you great to move. You had talked to me about that.
And so I did like local stuff here in the North Carolina area, man, for a long time.
Yes.
I did it for pay. I did it for seed in the ground. I did it for options and opportunities. And now, like, the doors have closed in certain spaces, but windows are opening.
Right.
And so windows are opening in other locations. I'm not gonna name drop.
Okay, that's
I'm
fine.
not gonna name
cool.
drop. But anybody that follows me, man, if you follow my page and stuff like that, there's glimpses and clues as to where and who I may be connected to. Shout out to Rock City. Okay. I may have an opportunity to go down there and do a particular thing.
Okay.
And do a project. And it may be long term.
Okay.
We're thankful for that. And that, man, gosh, that came because I was in the room at the right time on the right day.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, you got to be your best self on the best day when somebody's watching.
Right.
I was at that project and I wasn't even the focal point. I was there literally as a camera guy. And there was another individual. There was several individuals in there that was selling product, doing the thing, and they were the focal point.
Right.
But I was my best version of myself on my best day when somebody was watching.
Right.
And roughly about 120 days later, I get a random text, and I just want to free folk, man. Gosh, it said, "What is your desired salary, and are you willing to relocate?" And even if that deal doesn't go through, I want you to know it encouraged me and said, even if this is not it, it's possible.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, I'm not in competition with you. I'm not here to fight or wrestle with you. I'm just here to let you know it's possible.
Right.
And what that did, that let me know that I didn't have to move to a LA. I didn't have to move. I know I had to be faithful over a few things.
Right.
And then God makes you rulers over many. He says, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I already knew I had plans for you, that you was going to be in front of kings and queens and stuff of that nature. And so while I'm the lowly person in the room, he said, you're faithful over a little. He says, I'll make you the head and not the tail. I'll make you above and not beneath. He said, I'll make you the lender and not. And so, but that comes from what I told you earlier, seed in the ground. There was no point even when you and I started working together, where there was arrogance attached to what I was doing.
No, I never took it like that.
I was always a servant. I was always learning. And you can testify to this. There ain't been a time that you've came here where I ain't upgraded something.
All the time. Bro, I got this. Bro, I got that.
Yeah.
You know,
like, the ground.
Yeah, man. I be excited, to come see the new cameras and everything.
And people don't get that.
Right.
It's like they want people to support something that you don't even invest in.
Right.
And I believe that there's been doors open, but then when those close, windows open, because I've always put seed in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing, I had to get to a point where I said, you know what? I have to be accountable for why I'm here, so that I can value where I'm going.
True.
I have to be accountable for why this even has to be a necessity in my life, so that I can have value for where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
And so, man, and I've just been sensitive to that. I've been vulnerable to that. I've been, listening, to good guidance. I got old folk to talk to me. Right. You wanted the old folk to talk to me.
Old school pimping, baby. Old school pimping.
I believe that every wise man has, people in their camp that's older than them.
Right.
If you're talking, if you got people that's your same age and younger than you, man, I'm not saying that's not a good circle. I'm just saying, where's the wisdom?
Right. I understand.
You know what I mean? So, shout out to you, man. Shout out to Kelvis Tann podcast. Shout out to the Real Reckless podcast.
Yes.
Because even that, right? We saw a concept. We're not going to point any names or anything like that to certain brands, but we saw a concept, and this what goes back to what I said earlier. Yeah. If I see it, I can do it.
Right.
If I hear it, it's going to be done.
Right.
And so we saw a thing, we heard a thing, and we said, not only can we do it, but we're going to kick walls down. We're going to kick doors down. And we sold that event out, bro.
Right.
That was crazy. And that
the idea was birthed right in this room.
It was right in this room.
And on the couch.
Yeah.
It's not in here currently, but it was we were sitting on the couch just talking like, hey.
Just like this.
And just like this. And that's what we had talked about the concept. We didn't have a name. So what you think? And hey, Real Reckless was born.
It was birthed. It was birthed. It was birthed and it was born.
Yeah.
And we did what we had to do. And it's the first of its kind.
Right.
And I don't think it can be repeated, which is why you ain't seen it yet.
Nah, they can't.
The only people that can do that is us. It's some stuff that's just tailor-made for us.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I'm thankful for Real Reckless, man. The podcast, the live audience, man, was so exciting. It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work. I go tell you, a lot of money spent. But hey, it was a great, and people, and honestly, I've told you this before, people still asking me,
definitely,
when we gonna do something. Matter of fact, the last person, the person we just had on my podcast asked me, when we gonna do, and people that I work with and people that I know. And so for me, Rob, man, I'm still growing this podcast thing. I'm still building, we're still building the brand. But you know what, really, I'll share this experience with you. What kind of touched me, a good classmate of mine died a couple weeks ago.
Man.
And I went to the family house and sitting there talking to his brother. And he said, I'm not big on social media, man, but I see some of the stuff you're doing. He probably seen some of the reels. He said, man, I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. So even in that moment that someone lost their brother, they took the time out to tell me to keep going. Don't be discouraged. And that's why I keep going. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes I get discouraged, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, man, I'm trying to get to this level, and I'm not feel like I'm getting where I need to be. But people like that, the people in my hometown that tell me, hey man, I see your podcast, man. I love what you're doing. You're a celebrity to me. It means so much to me. It keeps me going, man. It keeps me driving. When I don't feel like podcasting, you come on, bro. Let's podcast. Come on, let's shoot another podcast.
Yeah, you just burst something in me though. I say the little bit that I have means so much.
Yeah.
And what you have left is worth it. Like that's it. Because a lot of times, a lot of people feel like, all I got left is broken pieces. All I have left is things that look displaced, things that are scattered, things that are just, I don't have, it was out shape, it's without shape, it's without form. I don't know what to do with all these dreams. I don't know what to do with all these ideas. And what you have left is worth it. The failed relationship, fathering, when your child is, not inside your home. Those are things that break your heart.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Having to shift careers breaks your heart. You know what I mean? Resets logistically, financially, having to reset your heart. And a lot of times we lose conscious of the fact that what we have left is worth it. But I'm convinced, and I'm crazy enough to believe that the broken pieces are the best pieces, because it talks about that, we're the clay and God is the potter, and he's molding us back together again.
I think your pastor talked about it first. Acts 12, if I'm not mistaken. Acts 12.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. It's about you getting comfortable with the broken pieces because they're still usable.
That's true.
And what I heard and what he said was, the little bit I have means so much, but what you have left, what you're doing, I'm not in competition with it because it's worth it. And and it's your lane. Yeah. I can't take that from you. You're winning, you're thriving, you're killing it in your lane. And I just heard the necessity of your voice, your platform being something that we just need in and through the earth. And so alongside what he said, I tell you all the time, and I give you guidance all the time, not only just do your lane, but do it aggressively. Have endurance for it. Because the only person that can do Kelvis Tann podcast is Kelvis Tann himself. And so anytime, now we've had this conversation, anytime we have, marginal success or satisfactory success, is probably because we're doing something that's not tailor-made for us. But every time we've done something that's been strategically set before us, and it's part of our lane, it's part of our trajectory, it's part of our assignment, let me know one time we've done that and you haven't been fulfilled.
It's every time.
And because it's clear, because he that hath begun a good work is faithful to perform it until the day. There's a good work there. And so I just want to provide clarity. I want to provide an extended version of what he said to you. Not only does the little bit you have mean so much, but what you have left, Kelvis, is worth it.
It is definitely worth it.
I just wanted to make sure I felt that. That was good to me.
Yes, it was. It was a word. It was a word for my soul. So going to that, talking about that, I mean, you just got ordained a couple months ago. I was there for that. You and Ray Sean.
Thank you, by the way.
I was man, it was my honor to be there. So talk to the audience about, man, all the things you do. You're still serving the God. You're serving in the church. You got your leadership role. How is all that together? How do you manage all that? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. So first thing is that, while others would say you got to have separations for things, I'm of the vernacular that I don't separate nothing. It's easier when you are who you are, and then you are who you are in all environments, and I'm literally at this point in my life, what you see is what you get. Where I failed in ministry was I was one person in ministry, and I was another person when I left. And that's when I had a podcast and I recorded the fact that I love things in the wrong order. It was called Disordered Love. And so I had a love for what it did, not what it stood for. I didn't have a love or an affection for The Office. I didn't have a love or an affection for actual relationships. So I was good at church, terrible at relationship. And I'm not talking about with another person. I'm talking about a life without Christ. It's unknowingly walking in brokenness. So I was walking broken, living in shambles to a certain degree, but professing prosperity. And so those worlds, when they collided at a particular point, you know about it, they collided, and it caused me to have a conversation with myself. And not only did it cause me to have a conversation with myself, but it caused me to have a fight with myself. And in me having a fight with myself, guess who won? Me. You see what I'm saying? Because when you have a fight with yourself, you always win. You see what I'm saying? And so then I had to realize, wait a minute, there's nothing that I've been able to do. There's nothing that I've been able to accomplish without the workmanship and the covering and the guidance of Christ, right? So why do I get in these spaces and act like that is not the thing that needs to sustain me? Because anything you do without Christ, you got to sustain on your own. And we don't have the endurance, the strategy, or the strength for life.
Amen.
I had to figure out, my mom told me when I was a kid, So I graduated from high school, and she wanted me to basically put in my yearbook the quote, when you put under your picture in the yearbook, that basically it was something to the effect of be humble and basically let God exalt you in all your doings or something like that. It was something of that vernacular.
Yeah.
And so I struggled with, I'm being real. Don't judge me.
I ain't judging.
I struggled with that quote. I put it in the yearbook, but I struggled with it because the truth of the matter is there was a particular portion of RJ that struggled with humility, struggled with, even a form of arrogance to a certain degree, where I think that had to do with the biggest part of my demise. It was like, I need to break you down before you kill you, before I designed for you to.
Right.
God, I killed you before you killed you, before you were designed to die.
Wow, that's powerful.
So it was almost like my demise was the thing that gave years on my life.
Right.
Because if I would have kept going the way I was going, then that was really me walking into a space or a trajectory where I was going to have premature death.
Right.
And then there would be people like you saying gone too soon.
Right.
Because I would have killed me doing me more than what God had me to do, had for me to do. You see what I'm saying? Like that was crazy. Right. And so how do I do it now? I literally say I do all things as unto Christ. I do all things as unto the Lord. Mm-hmm. I understand that the workmanship that I'm called to do is of no work of my own. Mm-hmm. I'm only successful in and through what Christ allows me to do. He lives, he moves, and he has being in he's Alpha, he's Omega, he's beginning and the end. He's all of that. Right. And if he's not in that, be person enough, be aware enough to say, you know what? I need to sit out from this. I didn't do a good job in the past of knowing when I needed to put myself in timeout. God, that just helped me. I didn't know when I needed to put myself in timeout. Right. And so as I've gotten older, you know me, you know my story. I've lived enough to about 5 lives. Right.
That's true.
For real.
Yeah.
I done died 5 times in this.
That's true. Yeah. I know the story.
So for real. Yeah. So like I'm at a space now where if I could say it this way, I don't want to die mentally no more. Right. I don't want to die, emotionally no more. This is gonna bless you. I don't want to die financially. Like I'm tired of dying and still living. Right. I'm tired of dying and God has the grace to say, but I'm gonna let you live through your bad choices. Yeah. I don't want to do that anymore.
Well, that's powerful.
And so you're asking why am I effective? I'm effective because I have said, God, I surrender. God, I am done. Right. I am not fighting against what it is that you have for my life. Right. I'm not even trying to do it in a way that ain't me because listen, this is the thing. Even if I do it a way that I saw, they're not even going to see God in it. They're going to see the person I'm imitating. Right. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So the way it's working for me right now is that I'm just authentically walking in the definitive assignment that he has for my life. I'm not trying to be nobody I'm not. Right. This is why ordained and all, you still gonna get the jeans, you still gonna get the t-shirt,
you're gonna get the hat.
That's me. Yeah. And I want people that come to Christ, I want them that look like me. Watch this. I want them to feel accepted. Right. Because oftentimes, when you think of ordination to elder and things of the such, you see people that are, set apart in a certain way, but they look older. But I want to make it normal for people that look like me to say I can serve God and still be, who I am authentically. Right. You know what I mean? There's some adjustments, there's some denial of the flesh, and there's some sacrifices that you got to make.
That's true.
But elders wear hats, snapbacks. Right. You know what I'm saying? Elders wear t-shirts. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just about being authentic. It's about being pure. It's about making sacrifices. It's about denying your flesh in the spaces that he's called you to be challenged in. Right. So mostly that, people can get edified out of your life and God can be glorified out of your life.
Right. Well, I want to dive into something else, man, because we had an experience together. Yeah. And I want to talk about
this is
your respective relationships with clients and people that's attached to your clients. Because you had an experience some months back. We had a guy came in and he wanted to do a podcast. He actually podcast with us. It was a pretty good podcast. Yeah. And then we wanted to come out and be in the community. We bought some tickets and couldn't find out. Yeah. And to this day I'll never get your reaction. And your reaction is like, Kelvis, I don't get down like that, and and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, do he really think I get down with this? Because I don't think I give off that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So just talking from that one experience we had, and others ones, but you've been out here, you do a lot of other things, you meet a lot of other people because you're on a lot of other different projects. Talk about your relationships with clients and people that you interact with. How's that been? Because you are an entrepreneur too, so how's that been for you?
It's been I've had learning lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And this touches my heart to a certain degree. What I've learned is that you take business partners and you turn them into friends.
Mm-hmm.
You don't turn friends into business partners. You take business partners and then you now associate them as family. You don't take family and turn them into business partners.
Okay.
Because the truth of the matter is that at the end of the day, when you take family or you take friends, there's gonna always be a big joker and there's always gonna be a little joker. And then there's moments when you're doing business with family and friends where we forget that we're doing business, and we go back to relationship. And relationship don't make money all the time.
No,
a relationship is not always the solution all the time.
Right.
Relationship is not always the thing that unlocks strategy. I believe it takes people. So relating with people unlocks strategy. But sometimes the mere fact that we're brothers or we're kin and sometimes, and let's just be transparent. I had a podcast before it. We even, actually the origin, to give me a second. Shout out to my brother. He's killing it, man. I think it's called Rod Edwards Content, REC.
Okay.
Killing it on YouTube, killing it on Instagram.
Okay.
But he and I actually started off and Give Me a Second podcast. It was actually me, him, and Rayshawn. A lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know that. No.
And so this is the greatest example of what that looks like. Love them. I love him to death. That's my brother. We fight, we argue. We also play 2K. But that's just being brothers. You know what I'm saying? But we started a podcast together. And there was a particular point in the podcast business where we went from it being a business to it went back to us relating. And there was a particular juncture in the relating of it all where we blurred the lines of relating and relationship, right? And it affected our business. Now, I say that to say that, while that happened because at the end of the day, like I said, the lines were blurred. And there was a moment where, for he and I, it wasn't about business no more. It was about family.
Right.
It was about trauma. It was about triggers. It was about how we grew up.
Right.
It was about everything that the business didn't stand on.
Right.
And there was some personal and real conversations that ended up happening, in the space that was supposed to be business.
Right.
And so it just kind of made it weird. You know what I mean? And so he's gone off to do his thing. I've gone off to do my thing. And the truth of the matter is he's successful in his endeavors.
Right.
I'm successful in my endeavors.
Right.
And I believe for us to be successful, he has a people that he's supposed to reach. I have a people that I'm supposed to reach. And it's okay for us to be called to different people.
Right.
I celebrate him. I'm happy for him. I believe he celebrates me. He's happy for me. But that's an example of family. Like, what's the one thing what's the couple of things that family fall out over? Money. Baby mama drama.
Baby mama.
Daddy's maybe, mama's maybe. You know what I'm saying? Like money, sex. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And so that stuff, it's real. And so he and I, we, I love him to death. We fell out over what that looks like, but it lets me know that, we still were called to do what we're doing because independently of each other, he's still killing it.
Right.
Independently of him, I'm killing it.
Right.
And that just let me know, you know what? I love you. I support you. And it ain't even from a distance. It's up front. It's up close. It's impersonal.
Right.
But at the same time, that does not, it's hard to take family and turn family into business partners.
That's true.
Now, you and I, you were a business partner first, turned family. You know what I mean? Right. But the reason why we're able to keep the main thing is because at the end of the day, even if we fall out from a family perspective, I still have to pay respect from the fact that we are every time, think about in the Army, when you're in a traumatic situation, what do they tell you to do? Rely on your defaults, rely on your training. Right. And so in the position of business and entrepreneurship, when we fall out personally, because you can't tell me every time I've called you was happy to hear my phone call. Let's just be real. You aren't always happy to get my phone call.
No,
that was
not all
that's,
the time.
but that's the family in us.
Right.
But the business says, you know what? Let me hear what he got to say.
Yeah. That's
Even
true.
if I don't want to hear it,
That's true.
even if I ain't feeling it,
That's true.
let me do what I have to do from a business perspective. And this family stuff that we ain't getting along about, it'll pass.
Right. That's
You
true.
see what I'm saying?
That's very true.
But I believe that family, they don't have always the ability to
Mhm.
kind of separate the two. Whereas even if I don't like you as my brother, you're still my boss.
Right.
You're still my business partner.
Right.
You're still 60% owner. I'm still 40%. See what I'm saying?
Right.
So we got to get along, if nothing else, because of the contractual relationship that we got.
That's
I'm
right.
not going to disrespect you, because if I disrespect you, now I'm playing with my money.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
But when it's family, it's like, whatever. And we expect people that we expect family to have unconditional, this is the word I'm looking for. We expect family to have unconditional acceptance for our bull crap.
Right. That's
You
a
see
good
what I'm
word,
saying?
yes.
And I don't have to always accept it.
Mhm.
But because now we're family and we're in business, I'm stuck with it.
Right.
But if we're just business partners who happen to call each other family, I can walk away from it for the weekend.
Right.
If I need a break on Friday, I don't got to call you till Monday.
Yeah. We do that sometimes.
And we do that.
Yeah.
And so I guess navigating it, in the relationships that I've had, the most successful relationships I've had are business people that I've turned into family and friends.
Right.
And in my experience, because the truth of the matter is, family and friends, they argue over money. They argue over, interpersonal stuff.
Right.
And sometimes when you argue because you expect more from family, sometimes that stuff is not recoverable.
That's true.
Man, I said a lot, but I hope I landed it.
You landed it.
Yeah. I'm loving it, man.
I love
But
it.
shout out to him. He actually got me this hat that I got on, man. Shout out to you again, REC. That's Rod Edwards Content, man. Look him up, man. My brother's killing it,
Definitely.
man.
Definitely.
He is killing it. I'm proud
Look
of
him
him, and
up.
I love him, and I just pray that God continues to give him, with doors closed, windows open for him, for real, because he's
Facts.
killing it.
Facts.
Yeah.
So let's continue down that path. So when you say all that about family, you turn business partner to family. But I want to know the real reckless side of your experience out here working with people. You know what I'm saying? Because like when I spoke of the incident we had with the young man that came in because he was calling me and saying, hey, I want y'all to produce and this and that and other. And then when we talked about it, you said, hey, Kelvis, I don't think that's going to be a good fit. You did some research, but out there outside of Kelvis podcast, when you out here working with different artists and different celebrities, what have that experience been, the entrepreneurship for you out there? What's the real life behind the scenes experience been for you?
Like real life, you got to get yourself to a space where your yes has, your yes has currency and your no has value. Because when you're trying to build and you're trying to make it, a lot of times you may prostitute yourself and take on all types of opportunities just to be in the room.
Right.
And I'm thankful, even in that situation, we're built in such a way. He don't pay the bills.
Right.
Certain clients don't pay the bills.
Right.
And I've even got to a spot, thanks to be to God, where I'm not even I don't do one-offs. Like if you're not a client on retainer, and that kind of goes back to even how I met you, it kind of separates, not only who you are, but what you're willing to accept.
Right.
And so even with you, man, it was one of those things like, I'll do this one now, but if you're not willing to become a client on retainer, then, we really ain't got a whole lot to talk about because, if you're trying to build relationship with a client, if you're trying to build residency with a client, if you're trying to build a future with a client and you want to be a part of their growth trajectory, then it's like, okay, so how do I become a part of tomorrow?
Right.
Because today is already thought of. It's over with. By the time I go to sleep, today is over with.
Right.
And so there was a point where I was doing the onesies and the twosies and the, somebody would call me, but there's no consistency in that.
Right.
There's no reality in what that looks like. It could be here today and gone tomorrow.
Right.
So I had to bet on myself. I had to bet on my skill set. I had to bet on what it was I'm able to offer. And I had to be real about, my value system and say, hey man, listen. And so because I've done that, I don't have a lot of crazy, clients.
Okay.
I have clients that are of quality, of scale, because I said, I'm not gonna settle for, you picking me out of your convenience.
Right.
I'm a client. Oh no, I'm a creator actually. That's a person that I'm all about building you into your future.
Right.
I'm
That's
here
true.
about I want to be a part of your life strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just brought a certain type of client to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um I you know, and so then you also have like the opportunist, you
Right.
know, and so people that, you know, only want to connect with you because of what they think that your platform can
Right.
do for them.
Right. Right.
And so even recently, you know, shout out to Jessica, but she literally is the person that says, "Hey, let me protect you from yourself."
Mm-hmm.
Because there's often times where I'll say yes to certain things and she's like, "You need to say no to that," because they only want you for what they think you can do for them.
Right.
They're not even connected to what, you know, what y'all can do for each other, or
Right.
even what they'll say it's an opportunity for you when it's really something for them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so you got to have good people in your life that's, you know, that's not self-interested, that's able to guard your blind spots.
Right.
Because I'm a helper. You know me, I'm a giver.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna give to everybody and anybody that I can because I believe in seed in the ground. But now I said that to say this. I'm at a space where seed in the ground, yes, but I want my seed to have value.
Right.
And I want it to grow in the right places.
Right.
And so that requires me to guard my yes. It requires me to guard my no's so that they have currency and they have value.
That's what's up.
Man. Yeah.
That's what's up, man. And truth be told, man, you would kept me from stepping out on some things, you know, for doing the research. So I'm thankful for, you know, you respecting the brand.
All you got is your name, man.
Yeah, you know, respecting the brand and keeping me squared away. And you're right, man. Going back to, you know, the camera had went off, but you know, you're right. You know, sometimes I get that call or you say, hey, we got to talk. I'm like, oh, man. Or you say, Kelvis.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, man, I'm in trouble. What I done did. Well,
Yeah.
You got to take that video down. Or you can't say that. But, you know, at the end of the day, when I really sit down and have an opportunity to think about it, I'm thankful for you. And I thank God for you. And I pray for you and your success because, you know, you could be like, hey, I got your money. You uploaded this. I didn't tell you to upload this, or you know, I done told you how to do it. And you done did it wrong, or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying?
So
some
people care, man.
Right. Some people don't care. They care only, as you say, would it suit them or what they getting out the deal. It's not like I care for you not only in a professional as a client, but as also as in a family, you know, a brotherhood as well. So, you know, I'm always thankful for that, man.
Yeah.
Man, so I done had some fun, man. Tonight, you done kept it real. You done you done dropped some jewels. Hey, listen, I got a book gonna be released in April.
Yeah.
It's coming out by the end of April. Hey, I'm excited about it, man. We working on the book hard as we can. We gonna, you know, we're gonna promote it. It's gonna be huge because I learned some valuable lessons for the last book I wrote.
Yeah,
and so
drop some gems in that one too.
So I've learned some valuable lessons to pre-market, to go ahead and get things out there. So I got somebody working on to mark up the cover. We should have that next week sent to you, and the writing for the back and everything. So we get ready to do a new book. Yeah, and we're gonna do some great things, man. I'm thankful for you, and I'm praying for RE Media's success because when you successful, I'm successful. Yeah. Blessings flow down. As your pastor said, blessings flow down.
Yeah. You know when it hit my house, it's going to hit your house too.
Amen.
Yeah, that's good.
So, man, I love it, man. Thank you for tuning in to Kelvis Podcast. Thank you for coming on. For more content like this, like, share, and follow on all social media platforms, Kelvis Podcast. And my man, RE Media in the house. You know what it is. Peace. Yeah.